other religions, what other cultures are celebrating. And today is the beginning of Rosh Hashanah. And Rosh Hashanah is one of those things that many people don't realize. It's in the Jewish faith, it's a celebration of creation. Wouldn't it be great if in the Christian religion and many other religions, if there was a day that you could say, this is when God created the world. And the more I read about Rosh Hashanah, the more excited I got about what a wonderful celebration. And I called Chris Brown, Reverend Chris Brown, and I said, Chris, could you talk about Rosh Hashanah? This was only last week, so it was quickly, and just about like I did poor Sean this morning. I've been going through a lot of things in my life right now, and I've been a little bit hesitant to get people up here to talk. And so Chris said, sure. Still not too sure what I was talking about what she had to do. So this morning I got a note from her saying, I've got it. So I'm excited to hear what she has to say. Okay. And I want to mention that if you have a message, if you have a story, if you have an idea, if you have something you want to discuss, please let me know so you can come up here behind the podium and talk to us. Because each one of you is a part of the Spirit. And who you are, we want to know. Because that's the only way you really become friends, is finding out who people are. So give us a chance to know you by coming up and talking to us, okay? And now I'd like to introduce the Reverend Chris Brown.
I'm very pleased to be here. And to talk about something that I think we just don't know enough about. You know, I don't know what the percentage of Jewish population is in the US, but you know, it's 5% or more. I really don't know, but it's a lot of people that we run into every day, and I think it's interesting to find out what it is that, whether they're culturally Jewish or religiously Jewish, what is it that's kind of in their DNA, and what is it that they're paying attention to? It's in our DNA as well, but we may not be paying attention to it. So today I want to talk about things to pay attention to. And it's going to be a little bit experiential and less informative. But I do have, if anybody is like really interested in liturgy, I actually have passages that we're going to go over. If there's anybody like right now who knows that they want all this stuff? Good, okay. So they'll be available if you decide later, well, I really want to know, like what you read was really cool, or something like that. Okay. Now, a lot of what I'm going to talk about today may be also familiar, especially if you were raised in a Christian environment, which so many of us were. And if you think of the word Judeo-Christian, basically, Christianity is built on a basis of Judaism. And so a lot of what happens in Judaism can be familiar to us already. And I would simply reference the Old Testament as a really good place to start. Becca, while you're there, would you mind opening the door for me?
Sure. Are we going to let in Elijah?
Yeah, we always let Elijah in, yes. We're also going to let Chris's voice go out, because my voice can be pretty big. When I give talks on Judaism, first of all, I was not raised Jewish. I found out when I was 18 that I was Jewish, which sort of puts an interesting crimp in who I thought I was. But I did not pursue it till I was probably 30, something like that, and was spending time up in San Francisco with the gay Jewish synagogue, and that was a lot of fun on so many levels. It was easy to be at, and it was a lot of fun. And so what happened for me is that it really resonated with me. I have no idea how much it was DNA and how much of it was just spirit, but it really resonated with me, and I would sit in the pews and just cry and cry, like, oh my God, I'm feeling overwhelmed by this emotion and the things that we are doing, and the things, practices, for example, and some of those we're going to do today. So what I'm going to start with is the call to prayer. And so the word call is Shema, and this is called the Shema. And it's a call to prayer, and it says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord is one, the Lord is..." So they don't say God. They do that funny thing because they don't pronounce the letters in God. We've turned it into Yahweh, but you're not supposed to say that. Or what happens is that in the literature, it's just a double quote. So whenever I run into this, it's like, oh, I'm tripping. I'm not supposed to say that. All right.
Where are you supposed to say it?
When you refer to God, we don't call God by name. We call God by attribute. So God is one. God is loving and kind and merciful. But we call him Lord. So Adonai means Lord as opposed to meaning the word God.
Wasn't it way back when they didn't even voice the word God? It just was so...
It's still true. So that word Yahweh turned into Jehovah. So the word Jehovah is easier to move around, but it's not Jewish. It's sort of been taken by other religions as the way to transliterate the non-stated piece. So I'm going to go ahead and do the call to prayer, and I have done this into cavernous buildings and over freeways, and so sometimes it's still not enough. Hear, O Israel. Now Israel is everybody, right? So Israel becomes all of us. God is Lord, God is one. Blessed is his name, whose kingdom is forever and ever. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malkuso Leolam Vaed. And that first word there, Baruch, I think I've mentioned this before. Baruch is the word blessed. In Latin, it's Benedict, and it's also Barak. So our recent president, his first name meant blessed.
Wow. Wow.
Isn't this fun?
Yes.
So, Rosh Hashanah starts tonight. It means the beginning of the year is ahead of the new year. And then for 10 days, we contemplate who have we been, who do we want to be, what do we need to do to be that. And then, so this is the 9th. On the 18th, so it starts tonight, on the 18th it'll start and it'll go to the morning of the 19th, and that last day is Yom Kippur. Yom means day. Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. And basically what happens is that on Rosh Hashanah, God opens the book of life. And we get to decide who are we going to present ourselves as. And then on Yom Kippur, we are inscribed. Yeah, we're inscribed in the book of life. So what have we done to clean up our life in those 10 days? You got 10 days to figure it out. And your whole community is also figuring it out. and some really special things that happen. I wanna also start with a reading from Deuteronomy. I mentioned that the Old Testament is something we share, we Christians, and in theory Muslims, but Christians share with Jews. And I've asked Keith to come and help read. So you'll recognize this, I believe, most people will recognize this. And you can come to the mic with me. Just come back here, I think that's the only coffee there. So, this is Deuteronomy 6, verse 6, chapter 6, verse 5. And I've entitled it, You Shall Love. It's a passage that most people know. And as we read this, and as Keith reads the English, I want you to think a little bit about what you may know from movies and other things about Jewish and Orthodox Judaism. For example, the mezuzah that goes on the doorpost. You've probably seen or met somebody that maybe they come to their house and they kiss the mezuzah before they walk in. That mezuzah that's sitting on the door, that's been tacked to the door post, is hollow. And in it is a scroll in the tiniest of print, hand-printed in Hebrew, tiniest of print. And that tiny print is what I'm about to read. So when they've crossed their threshold, they're invoking what I'm about to read. Something else that you may have seen is that they put these boxes, they have lots of ties, and they put boxes on their heads, and they have different things. And a lot of that is in here, so it kind of gives you a sense of, oh, where did that all come from? So, Keith, I'm going to have you go ahead and read. I'll do the Hebrew first.
All right.
This is called Ve'ahavta. You shall love. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavsha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'adecha. And then you read that.
You shall love your Lord, your God, with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might.
V'hayu hadvarim chale asher anochi mitzvacha hayom alev avecha. V'shinantam levenecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'feitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'chomecha.
These words which I command you on this day shall be upon your heart. Teach them diligently to your children. Speak of them when you're sitting in your house, when you're on the road, when you're lying down, and when you're rising up.
וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
You shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and you shall be a symbol between your eyes. Write them on your doorpost of your house and upon your gates.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם.
That you may remember and do all of my commandments and be holy unto your God.
אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Go ahead and read that one.
I am the Lord your God,
אשר הוציא אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים.
who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God.
אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
I am the Lord your God.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That was written in the 7th century BC.
BC.
BC, or BCE, if you want to be correct. So, this is the prayer that talks, this is one of the prayers, it talks about God being one God. And this is the source of monotheism. This is the cradle, if you will, the cradle of monotheism. Because I am the Lord your God, I am one God, was in an environment of many gods, in a polytheistic environment. And so the Jews became unique in choosing one God and following that one God. And that has a lot to say about who we are today. You kind of sit and meditate on that. And then what happened is that the Christians were looking for the Messiah, or the Jews were looking for the Messiah, and they thought they found him, and that was Jesus. So then you have the Judaism, so Jesus was Jewish. You've got the Christianity on top of that, and then on top of that, and I think it was 623, some in the 600s AD, Muhammad had a revelation, and so he took it one step further. And I was thinking about this morning, I was thinking, if I fight with people, am I more likely to scrap with my brothers and sisters, or am I more likely to scrap with the neighbors down the street? And to me the answer was obvious. I'm going to scrap with my brother and sister, because they have something I want, they're saying something different from how we learned it, they're doing something different from the way it's supposed to be. Whereas the neighbors over there, I'm not really paying attention to them. And I had that idea this morning. That's really kind of what Judaism and Christianity and Islam feel to me, is scrapping within this monotheistic container when there's all these other people. And in my experience, when we're scrapping with people this way, we don't even notice the others. So we're not paying attention to the Hindu, the Zoroastrian, the Buddha, all of those other religions, where perhaps that's maybe why some of this infighting is happening, is because it's closer to home. It's like, wait a minute, that's my inheritance, not yours. That's my kitchen, not yours. That's my piece of land, not yours. It just felt, it resonated for me this morning. Okay. So, what is Rosh Hashanah? It is the beginning of the year. We talked about 10 days, the Day of Atonement. On Rosh Hashanah, each person's book of life is opened, and on Yom Kippur, whatever has been written in that book of life is then sealed. So this is called high holidays. These high holidays are a time of conscious contemplation of who we've been, who we want to be, what we need to do in order to become that in the eyes of God. So this has a religious aspect to it, and there's a little bit of distinction between the religious and the secular. So I want to talk about one of the aspects of this. If I have done something wrong, lied or cheated or stolen, what is it that I've done? And who does it matter to? And so, when I think of lying, cheating, and stealing, using the carpool lane when I'm a solo driver, replenishing school supplies from the storage room at the office. But what about disrespecting our neighbors at the grocery store? What about being judgmental of our fellow citizens and the choices that they make? And what about being a little too thrifty with our charitable contributions? So that was kind of more where I was looking about lying, cheating, and stealing. Could I have been a little more generous or helpful or forgiving toward people I don't know? So what is the status of our mental, emotional, spiritual state? So this is one aspect of celebrating Rosh Hashanah, or preparing for it. And a key component of preparation is to ask for forgiveness from anyone we may have wronged during the previous year. To the greatest extent possible, we want to begin the year with a clean slate, without anyone harboring a grudge against us. And similarly, we should be quick to forgive those who have wronged us. Wouldn't that be nice to do this every year?
More often.
Many people have this custom of spiritual purification, visiting a cemetery, or praying at the graves of the righteous. And there's this thing that happens called Measure, I believe it is, but it's, that's maybe not the right one. Annulling the vows. That means all vows. Annulling the vows. So in religious and liturgical terms, if you say, I will go to the gym 3 times a week, you've made a vow.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an uh-oh. And it can be a legal vow, or it's a legal vow within the Torah or a liturgical vow. And so before Rosh Hashanah, we annul any vows,
Yay.
whether made intentionally or not. And this is done ceremoniously in a charged container by standing in front of 3 witnesses and asking to be released from one's vows. So I thought, well, what if we took a moment here? And if you can think of one or more vows that you've made that you've not been able to keep, and maybe you know you're not going to, and you wish you could, and you'd like to have a sacred release from that vow. So I'm thinking, what if we all stood up? There's lots of witnesses in the room. And just take a moment to think of any vow that you might have made, and then ask for its annulment.
Do we have to say it out loud?
I don't think we should have to say it out loud. I think simply asking for the annulment, asking to be released from one's vows is what it says here. So I'm going to go with that. So anyone who would, yeah,
There are people that can't stand up.
that's fine. You notice I'm not pushing. From wherever you are, and to any degree that you wish to participate, maybe we just take a moment and ask to be released from our vows.
Okay, we're gonna stand up.
Mhm. So anyone who would like to stand up, and we'll do this in English. And so, in front of these witnesses, here together gathered, we simply say, I ask to be released from my vows.
I ask to be released from my vows.
And I'm going to suggest that as each of us is also a witness, that we say back into the collective, I bear witness that you are released.
I
bear witness that you are released.
And go ahead and sit down.
Be fun if we were.
It's like a birthday wish, you have to keep it whole.
I know.
So as you might imagine, there's a lot of depth to this set of ceremonies. And I want to go into a little bit of a musical piece here. Because the next thing that happens is we ask God I'm looking at my olive. We ask God to be charitable with us. So this is on the heels of what we've just done there. We ask God to be charitable to us. And I'm going to read a little bit of a story that I really like. How is it that if we have lied or cheated or stolen, and one thing I want to say is that when you're in that ceremony in Yom Kippur, everyone stands up and everyone says, we have lied, we have cheated, it's all in Hebrew, but we have, this is, na na na, I don't know the words, na na na, na na na, and you get 3,000 people, na na na, na na, it's right in the bone. And everyone is doing it because the truth is that everyone has done something. And I'm going to read you a little story that really speaks to this. Okay. So the refrain of this song asks God, deal with us graciously for your own sake, since we can plead little merit before you. Which means, not in front of me, which means, okay, I'm sorry, let me get the words right. Deal gently and kindly with us and save our people. Be gracious and answer our prayers, for we have little to commend us. And that sounds like a really deprecating thing to say about oneself, but I want to read you from a story that explains it in a different light. And this story I'm reading is from the 1700s. A retail merchant who dealt in fabrics made his way to his wholesale supplier to buy the goods he needed for his business. The wholesaler instructed his workers to wait on the merchant and to bring him all that he ordered. Standing in the middle of the warehouse, The merchant bellowed out all sorts of orders and requests. I want 1,000 yards of that red cloth, 2,000 yards of the blue velvet, 3,000 yards of that white silk, he shouted, and on he went, requesting many other items. When it came time to total up the price of the goods and to pay the bill, the merchant took the wholesaler to the side and, very embarrassed, whispered in his ear, listen, I can't give you any money for this right now. Please allow me credit until I can pay you. So it is with us, said the teacher. We shout out all sorts of requests to God in this prayer. We want forgiveness, health, a good life, wealth, redemption, and many other things. But when it comes down to the end of the verse, and that's the verse that we're going to sing together, to pay the bill, so to speak, we find our humility. Our Father, our King, be gracious to us and answer us, though we have no worthy deeds with which to pay you for our large order. Please grant us charity and kindness and save us. So, this song, which you have on your chair, Avinu Malkeinu. Avinu means father. It can also be represented as mother. Malkeinu means king. It can also be represented as queen. And if we invoke our mother, father, there's an intimate relationship between between child and mother, child and father. But if we invoke our king or our queen, there's a more distant relationship. And I think of it when I was learning how to be in my own skin. Sometimes God was on the inside. On a good day, God was on the inside. But on a day when I was having a lot of trouble, I really needed God to be on the outside. So it's that dichotomy, it's that bothness. Avinu Malkeinu, the God that I feel within me and the God that I know is also out there. And that's who the supplication is being made to. So I'm going to go ahead and sing this, and then, if you like, we'll try it. It's okay. Okay. All right. So, Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu V'Hanenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu V'Hanenu, Ki Hin Banu Ma'asim. Aseh Imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh Imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed, v'hoshienu. Can you imagine being in a building with 3,000 people, having just opened themselves, and then make this supplication? It is bone music here. You guys want to try it? Sure. All right. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu V'Hanenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu V'Hanenu, Ki Hin Banu Ma'asim. Aseh Imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh Imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed, v'hoshienu. Do you feel transported? I do, always. Okay. So another thing that happens in Rosh Hashanah is the blowing of the shofar. What's a shofar?
A ram's horn.
It's a ram's horn. Anybody have any idea why, and there are at least two reasons, why Jews might blow a ram's horn in its celebration?
The
Not enough
ram.
shepherds.
A lot of them were shepherds.
You can hear it for a long distance.
You can hear it, that's right.
It represents, what's his name, son?
Whose son?
What's his name?
Yes, Abraham sacrificed Isaac on the altar.
Yeah, that one.
That one. And God said, you don't, okay, if you're gonna do it, then you don't have to. But that moment where Abraham was willing to sacrifice his son in order to have his relationship with God. And so that ram's horn is representational of that sacrifice. It's really deeply steeped. So there's three different kinds of shofar. I would never bring one. I couldn't get. It's like that.
We've got a conch shell if that'll help.
I know. Actually, we're not gonna go. So we're gonna stay for
Now, that's somebody who can blow a horn.
Could you guys all hear that?
Yeah.
Okay. So each of those is a different tone and meaning and number of blasts, and they all are used at a particular time to open, to close, and this really, really long one. So the shofar is super important, and when you see drawings about the high holidays, you'll always see that shofar there. And they blow up to 100 blasts during the course of a service. All right. The meal. Let's talk about the meal. I think we're going to talk about the meal. Or actually, we're going to talk about the Kaddish. I'm going to give you one more Jewish thing. So, what I'm trying to do today is just kind of give you this visceral sense of being in a slightly different culture. The language is different, it speaks differently, but there's something so old and so, that reverberates in such an extraordinary way. So I'm trying to convey to you a little bit about that reverberation. There's another hymn of praise to God that is always said at a service. And some of these services are different on different holidays. I'm going to give you the regular mourner's Kaddish. And so I've asked April to come and translate for me. So because it's called the mourner's Kaddish, people think that you only say it when people die, and that's not the case. It's actually said at every service. You could say it every day. You have to be in front of at least 10 people in order to say it, and so I'm always really excited that I can come here and do it, because if I do it at home, I'm like doing it against the rules. Can you read that? Okay. I have more copies. Can you read that? Oh, here, that's even better. All right. We got it. All right. I'm going to go ahead and read the Hebrew, and actually, I'll have April read the English first.
Exalted and hallowed be God's great name. In the world which God created according to plan, may God's majesty be revealed in the days of our lifetime and the life of all Israel. Speedily, eminently, to which we say, Amen.
Okay, and if you know this prayer and you want to come along with it, that's fine with me. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבך, במה דברי חוטי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון ובמיכון וחיי דרכו בית ישראל. I usually sing this, so I'm going to start over and sing it because I like it better singing. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבך, במה דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן.
Blessed Blessed be God's great name to all eternity.
Heshmera b'mevorach, le'alam ulam me'al maya, yitbarach.
Blessed, praised, honored, exalted, extolled, glorified, adored, and laud be the name of the Holy Blessed One, beyond all earthly words and the songs of blessing, praise, and comfort, to which we say Amen.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemede kudasha brichu lehela min kol birchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata dahamiran be'alma vehimru amen. Thank you so much. So we do have a festive meal, especially for Rosh Hashanah. And remembering that we're looking at all of the things that we feel bad about and want to change, and we've annulled our vows and we're trying to get a new start, and we're looking forward to the new year. We talk about a good year, and we also talk about a sweet year. Because even though things might look bad in our eyes, they're also good. And that's kind of the natural stasis. Like, we don't realize that this thing that feels so bad is actually better for us than maybe the alternative. But then on top of that, that which comes revealed, that which is added, that be sweet. So that it's a good and sweet year. And so we have good and sweet things to eat, and one is a challah, or the yeast bread. You guys have probably all had challah before. Sweet, yellowy, light, yummy bread. It symbolizes fullness and completion. And you can dip the bread into honey, and it symbolizes a prayer for a sweet new year. And after the bread has been eaten, you take an apple, and you dip that in honey. And you make a blessing on the apple, and eat a little bit of it. And you say, may it be your will, God, to renew us for a sweet and good new year. So in honor of Rosh Hashanah, we have prepared servings of apples and honey. And you can take a bite of the apple and reflect on the coming year and dip it in the honey, that the blessings and the learnings of the year, the revelations of the year, may also be sweet. So I'm going to actually turn this over to Corky. I'm not sure how we're going to do this. Or am I
Why don't
leaving
we
it?
play the music while we do the...
Okay. We have a song. And maybe folks can line up. There are plates here.
There's 3 different types of honey.
Wow.
Corky, do you know what kinds of honey there are?
Yes, there's blackberry, some other kind of berry, and the, let me get the jar.
This one.
I know there's,
Yeah, if we start actually.
it's a very, very,
Okay, so it's a song about dipping apple in
Okay,
honey.
there's cherry blossom honey, there's blackberry honey, and there's wildflower honey.
Okay, you can
This
turn
is
it
the
up.
song, isn't it?
Yes, you can.
That's the other one.
Feel the magic of a new day. Open your heart to fresh starts and your fears away. You made mistakes, you feel it. You got what it takes, believe it. Any wrong can be made right. Just forgive me, you need not fight. Shine a little love and make you cry. It's Rosh Hashanah.
There we go. Yeah, thank you.
It's Rosh Hashanah.
Makes you wanna wiggle.
So many new hopes waiting to find you. Open your eyes, the dreams and cries are all around you. The smiles are hiding. Make up your mind, Lord, and find life's a blessing.
May you never hunger.
It's your shine.
You wanna come out? Come on. Come on. Come on.
Hear the sounds of jubilation. It's Rosh Hashanah. Give us life, Lord, and sustain us. Oh, deliver us to lose our nation. Give us life, Lord, and sustain us. Oh, deliver us to lose our nation. Rosh Hashanah.
Yes, you do. Thank you. We are awesome.
More than sounds like she's gonna play that shofar.
And please, if you like the different kinds of honey, please, it comes from, commercial, it comes from Honey Ladies.
Honey ladies. So that's what I have to say.
Well,
Good.
thank you so very much. It's
May you have a good and sweet year.
Good me, trying to play that song.
You know, to our Jewish friends, do we say, Happy Rosh Hashanah?
Shana Tova, yeah.
Yeah.
Shana Tova. Always good.